Hi everyone, this is Rohit from Untitled, and today I'm excited to have Mikhail Taver, who's the founder of Taver Capital, that has backed 20 AI startups and achieved 4 successful exits. He has invested in startups like ID, Sayana, and serves on the board of Cherry Labs, Winmill, and others. Welcome to the show, Mikhail.
Hello, hi Rahid. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, really excited to have you on board. But just wanted to want to understand, how did you get your start in this crazy world of venture capital?
Well, I was always what you might call a career investor. I always wanted to do something in investments from like the very, very early childhood.
Nice.
So once I kind of finished my undergraduate studies and went out of the university, I started working for investment companies. I did some work for large financial groups. I did some work for large enterprises, but it was always to do with investments. And the venture capital was, I kind of treated it as a smallish players, because I mean, when it used to billion-dollar budgets, you look at the, a few mils as something insignificant, but it was a part of a sort of ecosystem and industry. So at some point, I decided to give it a try. I went into venture and I loved it, and I keep loving it every day since.
Right, I think and it's super interesting. And how was your experience at Nafta-Moscva and AAR? Well, what were some of your learnings there?
Like I said, these were major financial investment groups. I mean, they did Nafta-Moscva, and I went there straight from the uni, and it was a sort of game-changing experience for me, to be honest, because at the university you could say that they teach you the alphabet, right?
Yeah.
And then you come to a company and they use those letters to talk slang.
Yeah,
So
got it.
there was a lot of practice there. I've done about, I would say, about 250 deals, something like that. I counted them. It was a small, compact team of less than 10 people, basically working there. So we did many deals, and deals in all kinds of industries. It was the early 2000s, so there wasn't that much technology then. But from metal mines to, I don't know, bricks to chemicals to even some startups and in technology. I mean, anything. And it gave me quite a diverse background, the ability to analyze various industries and ability to find commonalities. So it gave me a great preparation for what I do now. And when I moved to AAR, that was a company that we basically managed one of the largest, if not the largest, oil and gas companies in Russia at the time. So that got me a perspective on how big companies operate from the inside, from the very, very sort of top level, from the board level all the way down to the medium, and so on and so forth. And this is also very useful when you do venture investments, because I mean, eventually chances are you're going to get exit from your company, and not necessarily going to be an IPO. It might be doing a sale to a large company. So
Right.
it helps to understand how they work, how the decision-making processes are made, how decisions are made, how the budgets works, and so on and so forth. And speak the lingo.
Correct. Interesting. And especially with Tower, how did you look at AI? Because I started off my career in SaaS, but and it's been very recently that I've started working in AI. But when you started, did you have that vision that there'll be a lot of AI companies which would change how technology works?
Well, the first time I've actually dealt with a neural network was back at the university. It was sort of 1990s. So it was on a sort of decision making under uncertainty. I think the course was called, and we basically create. This is where I created my first neural net by just with a pen and pencil, basically, on a piece of paper.
Right.
Up to that, I mean, obviously, I kind of forgot about that, but came back to me in 2016 when we first started the first fund. I'm not that good at delegating things, so I knew that the team is going to be rather small. So we had to find something that was rather niche, but would have a good investment potential. And well, we came to this idea of AI. It was a big mistake, obviously, because AI is nowhere near niche nowadays. It's pervasive, it's everywhere. But
Right.
it was a good mistake to make. So yeah, basically, this is how we started. With my second fund, I'll probably, I hope to make the same mistake again, because I mean, I'm trying to make a niche focus. I'm going to be focusing on AI in the industry, industrial AI. It
Okay.
is not that common nowadays. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Okay. And when you say industrial AI, do you mean B2B? You
Yes,
know,
yes,
yeah,
B2B in sort of hardcore, sort of traditional industries, vehicle or just general manufacturing,
I see.
resource mining, things like that, metallurgy, steel factories, and so on and so forth, these kind of things.
Got it.
Because
Got it.
I mean, they are large. These are industry. I always say that this is like giving money to Henry Ford back in the
Yeah.
1920s, because I mean these are the industries that they're huge. They have matured. They provided fantastic returns to their investors who invested in them, I don't know, 20, 30, 50 years ago.
Right.
And AI is something that's going to give them a second chance. They is going to increase their efficiency, and they're going to gain a lot of value.
Right.
So I want to
Right.
capture some of that for my investors.
Nice. Nice. Got it. And I was just wondering, so when it comes to AI, a lot have been done by big companies like the Googles and the Microsofts, as well as startups. But who do you think will win in AI? Would it be smaller companies or would it be larger company which has distribution with them?
I don't think there's that much of a competition between the startups and the incumbents. I mean, for one, incumbents may be clients for the startups, right? So they both win. It's a win-win for them.
Right.
If a startup decides to not sell to the large player and just keep growing, they eventually become a big company, hopefully. So
Right.
there's no competition there. They're just probably different stages of development, or there's more of a symbiotic relationship, I would say.
Got it. And how do a lot of my friends talk about that AI will take away everybody's jobs, but how do you think AI can save the world's economy?
Well, I mean, like I said, I think it's well, I mean, we've seen this a few times before, right? When the electricity came, when the printing press came, and I don't think it's going to destroy that many jobs. It enables efficiency. It expands the economy. It's going to create jobs. It's going to augment jobs. Yes, the jobs are going to be different, but I don't think people are going to not be a part of the equation, at least for the foreseeable future.
Got it. And are there any specific industries which you think will be disrupted the most? I think you already see, writers getting disrupted because of OpenAI, but are there any jobs you feel that, are
Well,
in danger?
I hope to see the traditional industries disruption, because I mean this is where I'm planning to place my bet. I mean,
Right.
I see how old school and cumbersome, say, resource mining is, and there's plenty of opportunities to using even the current state of the art AI there, and it's
Right.
just boom, is going to explode, is going to expand.
Hmm.
So I hope that.
Got it. And recently the co-founder of DeepMind had mentioned that generative AI is just a phase. So what do you think is what's next in interactive AI?
Well, it depends on what he meant by this interactive AI. From judging from his interview, I think it's just a natural extension of the current generative AI. It's probably just a bit more connected, but I don't think that AI becoming a sort of self-aware agent, communicating with other AIs and other people is. It is probably possible even today, but we need to regulate that. I mean, this is very risky,
Right.
and chances are there's going to be legislation that's going to slow it down.
Interesting.
So
Yeah, interesting. Because I recently read the book about Elon Musk, and I think he really parted ways with the Google founder because he felt that regulation is going to be a big factor. But what needs to be done in order to ensure that there are regulations in place? I think Europe has done a great job, but do you think we should have regulations like crypto market has in America?
I think we should have regulation, but I would not say that Europe has done a great job. It's done a great job, putting in place lots of regulations, but it seems to me that they're just slowing their progress down significantly, and limiting people's ability to work and people's willingness to create startups, for example. And what this does is, this is just probably going to redistribute, entrepreneurs to other locales, other countries, or other continents where the legislation is less rigid, is less strict. So this is the problem with regulating AI. It needs to be done very, very carefully, because yes, you want to control it, but you don't want to put a stop to it. You can't really stop progress.
Right, right, got it. Um, and when you look at startups, how do you prioritize between people, traction, and market? What do you think is the most important thing?
These are all important. They probably some of those are more important at different stages of the company. But yeah, people are, the person is someone who drives the business. It just cannot, continue without the main ideologies, if you will. At
Right,
least when from the very start. But at some point, the founder is probably becoming, a hurdle to his own company. And this is the time when he needs to hire managers. He needs to probably give up some of the power and control, and eventually become a shareholder rather than the founder, owner, or the manager of the company. So that's important. Obviously, a market is something that it doesn't have to be there. Chances are you might create a completely new market from with your startup, just like Nvidia did, for example.
right.
And traction, you can't really survive without traction. What's the point of having a business with no traction? It is just a hobby.
Yeah, yeah, true. And when it comes to the GP and LP relationship, what's the single biggest areas of misalignment between them?
Well, I'm trying my best to align my interest with my LPs, because otherwise, it's just unethical to do. But so I'd say there are just sort of standard potential conflicts of interest, like, I don't know, say, affiliated transactions, like a GP. I've seen cases of a GP having a paid job at a portfolio company. This is obviously conflict of interest. Is probably not for the benefit of the LPs. Charging excessive fees and expenses and charging them to to the fund rather than to the GP. It's like legal fees and PR fees and things like that. It's not an uncommon practice to charge those as part of the deals that the fund does, which is probably not correct. The way I sort of mitigated this was, I just charge a standard management fee,
Right.
and I pay everything from that to so my investors know exactly how much is spent on in their investment, and no more than that. There's lots of conflicts with the potential LPs when when you fundraise. You obviously want to present yourself in the best way, so you get creative with value in your company. So you cherry pick the stories rather than tell the aggregate performance. So there's nothing special, just standard conflicts of interest.
Correct. And what do many GP see and know well that LP should know and see more of?
Uh, they should probably know how many companies fail,
Right.
because they see the aggregate performance of the fund, that they may get a distorted view. And where this sometimes, I would say even often, especially nowadays, leads them to is they start investing themselves. but do so in concentrated investments in one or two companies. You can't do that. You should create a portfolio, and you should probably have some professional education or some professional manage it for you, because otherwise you just there's just a pure selection bias. You only hear the stories of success,
Right.
but you don't know how tough things actually are.
Got it. And what are some of the biggest ways that decision making breaks down in a venture fund? Obviously, if there are a lot of partners in a VC firm.
I did not quite understand your question. What is it you're asking?
Uh,
How decisions are made in the
yes,
fund?
that's right. Yeah.
Well, it's always good to have a few people think about this with you. I mean, I'm a single GP,
Right.
but I mean, I still consult loads and loads of experts in the field. I mean, without that, it's kind of difficult to separate the good ideas from bad. So this is the first thing I do even before I talk to the company. Well, I mean, I see the company, I get first touch with them, and then I talk to the experts to see if that makes sense. If it does, I may have the founder talk to the experts as well, just to confirm and double check. Coming from the private equity and large sort of company background, I always sort of, this is probably not standard, but I prefer my companies to create some financial models to, chances are these are going to be wrong. They're not going to be, producing the correct figures, and they're not going to forecast the correct future for the company. But this shows how the founder himself knows his company, knows his business. I mean, it helps them to think. It helps them to show you how they think, and it's just a good exercise to practice. I always do that. So once the experts agree, once the numbers make sense, and I can see that the founder knows what he's doing, and if there is a potential for the company to become a unicorn, I mean, chances are there's a low chance of the company becoming a unicorn, but it should be there. It should be not zero.
Yeah.
This is probably enough for me to invest in. And obviously, I mean, I check to make sure that there's no conflicts in my portfolio. I mean, I don't practice the having competing companies in their portfolio. Some funds do, but that's not my style. If there are synergies between this company and my existing portfolio companies, that's great, but that's not the deciding factor.
Okay. Got it. And what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned from these companies while building Taver, especially because you've been in the AI space for such a long time?
Well, the main lesson I learned from investments, investments is not that much finance. It's more psychology, I would say. So you learn a lot about people, and one thing I learned was that people never change. They may learn, but they don't change. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an AI company to teach you that, but it just happened to be in my case. And that's an important lesson. So to check your references, always talk to people who know your founder. It provides a great deal of information, and you'll be together for a long time. You need to know that.
Got it. Interesting. And what advice would you give to founders who might have got offers from from seed firms at uh, like niche seed firms for smaller rounds at lower valuations, but they are weighing against larger rounds with higher valuation from multi-stage funds? And what advice would you give to them if they should go for niche seed funds or multi-stage capital funds?
Well, there's lots of money around, even given the current state of affairs and the venture capital winter and general economy shakedowns. So there's always lots of money, but there's also additional value that an investor can and should, I think, provide. So talk to the investors and ask them what else are they going to bring to the table in addition to the money. It might be networking, it might be advice, it might be industry experience. There's lots and lots of things an investor can help the company with. There are sort of spray and pray investors who just put the money in and do it in lots of companies. I'm not saying this is not the correct way to work. It works. But, I don't do that. I only have 20 companies in the portfolio, and, I was completely against having more, because then I won't be able to know how they do to work with them. I mean, I always keep in touch with them. There's messengers, phone calls, personal meetings. I know how each of my companies is doing at the moment, and I try my best to help them, probably even when they don't think they need it.
Mm, got it. Interesting. And I quickly want to do the top three. What's a favorite business book?
I'm not that big a fan of business books, to be honest, but I think that, every profession has the book. Whether you're a dentist or a market specialist or an investor. So in my case, it's this one, Security Analysis
Yeah.
by Graham and Dodd. It's a very old book. I think it's the beginning of the 20th century.
Yeah.
But it has a lot to understand how to make investments. I mean, and the principles of the way of thinking has never changed and shouldn't really change. And, if these two guys were good enough to teach Warren Buffett, he was their student, actually. I think it's worth, hearing them, reading them.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I read that book. I think it's one of my favorite books. If you could go back in time when you started in the venture capital world, what is the one thing you would have focused on or done things differently?
I would have started earlier.
Okay. Mhm.
And I would probably got some psychology education, like a proper university course, because that's
Oh,
useful.
interesting.
Because I was always more of a finance guy, more of a numbers guy. But
Yeah.
when you go into investments, you realize how much it is about psychology and people in general.
Yeah. I read somewhere like VC is more like a B2B sales. Well, it's like a funnel, then speak to a lot of people. So I don't know if that's true, but that's an interesting analogy.
Well, not just in sales, but when you're doing the fundraising, or when you're selling your fund to the guy, to the potential portfolio company. Because I mean, if there's competition between funds, you obviously want to get in the deal. But even after the investment, post transaction, when you have the company in the portfolio, there's loads and loads of stuff going on. Interpersonal relationships, dealing with the founder. There's a lot that is not numbers.
Yeah. Interesting. And do you have any favorite online tools, for example, Gmail, Slack, Zoom? Do you have any favorite online tool, for example?
My favorite online tool has always been a web browser.
So
I
what do
mean,
you?
I mean, you just use it to find stuff, and
Yeah,
that's it.
awesome. We'll put that in the show notes. Mikhail, what is the best way people can reach out to you and know more about Taver Capital?
Oh, welcome. They can check out my website. They can check out my LinkedIn and just ping me. They can, send me an email, and cold emails do work. I
Okay.
might not always reply to them, but I always read them. That's guaranteed.
Okay. Got it. Well, we'll put that in the show notes. Mikhail, thank you so much for taking your time speaking to us. I really enjoyed my conversation with you.
Thank you very much for having me.